For this segment, we are sitting down with Tony Montalto of Parkland, Florida, whose daughter Gina was among the 17 who died tragically in the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting a little more than 4 years ago. Tony has been in touch with Rep. Madden and her office about legislation that they've successfully passed in Florida to make schools safer. And Tony, I want to first thank you for reaching out to us and being part of this and working with us to help make schools safer in Pennsylvania. I would like to start by asking you to tell us a little bit about yourself, your cause, and most importantly, a little bit about your daughter, Gina.
Well, as you said, I'm Tony Montalto. I'm the president of Stand with Parkland, the National Association of Families for Safe Schools. We were founded by the families that lost a loved one in the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School massacre back on Valentine's Day of 2018. Our group came together because we realized that the status quo wasn't working, and we've been successful in legislating different laws in Florida as well as nationally, also in New York and Pennsylvania and in New Jersey, and hopefully now continuing on in Pennsylvania in our attempt to make school children and teachers safer in your state. We do this to honor those that were lost that terrible February day, including my daughter, Gina Rose Montalto. She was a 14-year-old freshman. She was a bright kid, straight A student. She had a smile that lit up the room. She was friendly. She was a Girl Scout. She was part of the school's color guard team, and we miss her every day.
The loss is unimaginable for any parent, and what you and so many other families from Parkland have done is you've bonded with each other and then worked to make not just Parkland, not just Florida, but as many parts around this country safer as you can. What were some of the initial goals, and how have you gone about achieving success, especially in rabidly partisan arenas?
So Stand with Parkland is uniquely inclusive. We're nonpartisan. We look at safety as something that benefits everyone. By our nature, we talk to everyone willing to make schools safer. We invite them to work with us, to work together, to provide improved safety for all students and teachers. We do this by looking at what we call the school safety triad, and that's improving security on the campus, improving mental health screening and support programs, and finally, if you choose to own one, we need you to be responsible with your firearm. That school safety triad is something that we were able to work with. It's something we were able to pass shortly after the shooting in Florida with the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Act, which encompassed all three of those areas. Specifically regarding school safety, it gave us what we had in Florida is a school safety specialist designed for each school district to have a single point person to make sure that the laws that are passed in the state are being passed down and worked on in the communities. It also addressed improving the perimeter security of the schools, as well as providing more money and counselors for our students in schools.
One thing I heard you say when we were talking is every school where this has happened has had one thing in common, and that's the fact that they didn't think it could happen to them. And I know, the people who might be watching this think of this as a problem that's happened elsewhere, whether in Parkland, Florida, or Oxford, Michigan, more recently, and countless other places around this country. But until it happens to them, it's somebody else's problem. And I don't want to, be crass about it, but you've had to fight through some of that and bring people on board from across the aisle, from various walks of life. You mentioned the inclusivity of your organization. The challenges that we all expect anything that when you're trying to get legislation done, you've overcome. The key ways that you've managed to do that are what?
Well, we try and remind people that again, safety is nonpartisan and it's good for everyone. When people talk about the cost of some of our programs, we say, what's the cost measured against the millions of children and teachers that are saved by these processes that we put in place with effective legislation to prevent school shootings? We have to, one of the things that Stand With Parkland does is we look for solutions. We don't look for problems. When problems are presented, we're going to work with the legislators in various states and in the federal government to find solutions, whether it be funding, whether it be objections from certain groups. Let's find those, talk about them, and address them, and get the bill passed.
Yeah. You've accomplished so much already, which, if you can, please visit standwithparkland.org. It's a great website that has a lot of really good information, resources, information on bills that you've passed in Florida and other places. But with everything you've accomplished already, something that stands out to me is this is not over. Your advocacy doesn't stop because you got so many bills. I mean, you're forever going to have Gina as part of your life and your motivations and your inspiration. So what more do you want to see happen? What are the ultimate goals?
Well, the ultimate goals would be for Stand With Parkland to put itself out of business, whereas all children and teachers were safe. But until then, there's so much more that needs to be done to address the ever-evolving threats. Gina and the 16 others that were taken from us that day, we honor them by working to prevent this from happening again. We were very fortunate that Rep. Madden came down to Parkland this year. She attended some of the memorial services.
Right.
She got to see the effect that it has, not just on the 17 families that lost somebody, but on the entire community. That's something that the media rarely mentions and rarely points out, is it's not just the 17 families, which is horrible enough, especially if you're one of them, but it's the entire community that suffers. We've had a couple of students that have committed suicide since then, and they've pointed back to this being possibly related to the shooting that we had. So mental health is so important, and finding the counselors to get into the schools, making sure that our students are doing well. And we need everyone to keep an eye on students. We worked with the Secret Service and their National Threat Assessment Center, and in their 2019 Protecting America Schools report, they pointed out that attacks on a school are more likely to happen after breaks in attendance. And we know that certainly after COVID, there's been such a huge break for many students that they've fallen behind, or they're having trouble readjusting. So we need everyone, our administrators, our parents, our teachers, to look out for kids that are exhibiting troubling behavior, and then try and find a way to get them the help they need. And the behavioral threat assessment, which brings together mental health professionals, law enforcement, and school professionals, is probably the most effective way to address the behaviors that are troubling.
Getting to know you a little bit has been a genuine pleasure. I know Rep. Madden has been equally impressed with the pragmatism, with the no-nonsense, get something done because school safety is something that everybody can agree on in all walks of life. We know about the standwithparkland.org website that we've mentioned already. In Pennsylvania, we have an app for students called Safe to Say Something. But what other resources do you recommend to families, to parents, to school students that they can figure some information out as well that might be beneficial?
Right. So on our website, standwithparkland.org, we have a resources page, and there we have information on some of the laws that have been passed in Florida and elsewhere. We also have reports from the National Threat Assessment Center on averted school attacks to show how attacks were stopped. We have information from the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Public Safety Commission, which investigated the shooting in Parkland. We also have information from the Columbia Protocol, which is a suicide prevention mechanism, and it's very simple to use. There's an app on your phone you can grab to use it, and we want to encourage other people to look out for one another. Again, there's just so many things in so many ways, but the most important thing is to have everyone looking for troubling behaviors, and if you see something, say something. Use the See Something, Say Something app here in Pennsylvania. Report the things you see, so they can be investigated, and we can keep our children and our teachers safe at school.
Yeah, and as you've said before, this isn't about punishing kids, or it's about helping those who need it before tragedy strikes.
Right.
And Tony, it's absolutely been a pleasure working with you. We are going to continue to work with you as Rep. Madden takes the lead and pledges to find some legislation, work on legislation that similar to what you've done in Florida, and get that passed in Pennsylvania, and all in the name of making schools safer for students, for faculty, for teachers and staff, and giving peace of mind to parents so they don't have to experience what you've had to experience.
Well, that's certainly great, and we're behind Rep. Madden and her team to help any way we can. We're happy to come up and testify in your legislature and do what we can to drive home the point of how important it is to come together and start looking for solutions to make our schools safe.
Cool. Thank you very much, Tony.
Thanks, Jeff.